And welcome back. This is part two, even though I didn't do much in part one. Where we left off was the red eye. I was fiddling with it and it messed my computer up a little bit. So I'm just going to continue from there. These things, nah, don't worry about them. This guide is mostly for creating signatures, wallpapers, that kind of stuff that, well, where I'm posting this, that's the kind of stuff people would do. These don't really have a point. These are all image type stuff. This one you will use. This is the general paintbrush. Um, as you can see, I've downloaded a bunch of brushes. I mean, I have tons of them that I never really use. But the ones you're basically going to need for everyday stuff, you're going to need the soft brushes, usually the 65 to 300 range. What hardness on this does is, like, if I put the hardness all the way up to 100, what you'll see is it creates just a perfect circle of with a hard edge on it. If I put this down to 0 though, what it creates is a kind of fade away from it. And that's what you're going to want, because if you're painting over something to give it lighting or whatever, I don't know where that one came from. Probably my numbering thing earlier. You're not going to want it to be hard edges. It'll look weird. But yeah, it's basic. I mean, the Microsoft Paint has this. It's just a paintbrush. You paint on whatever you have. See, I got random junk. I got a bunch of splatters at the bottom. These are lines. I don't really know. I usually downloaded these just for like one sole purpose, and then I never use them again. But I have them anyway. You can mess with the opacity and stuff on it. I usually just make it on a new layer, and then you can mess with it there. It's a lot easier to do. I'll get to those menus in a minute. What else do we have in here? The pencil tool. Not the most useful of buggers in the world when you're actually doing stuff. It uses the same brushes as the other one, but the hardness is all weird on it. I usually only use it for creating patterns, which if you want to know how to do that, I'll put up a new video about it. It's for everyday stuff, it's not really useful. Color replacement. Some people swear by this thing. I haven't really figured it out yet. I have absolutely no idea what it does, and I apologize for that. Um, Clone stamp. What the clone stamp tool does is, say I want to take, like, you hold Alt and that'll select its range, and say I wanted to take that and paint it over here, it'll automatically copy whatever's under that little plus sign there. It'll take whatever's there and it'll just copy it and it'll paint it on wherever you're painting it. And it takes the same general paintbrushes as everything else. See. It's hard to example with these random shapes, but I don't feel like making anything else. It takes too much time. So yeah, that's the basics of the clone stamp. Pattern stamp, I'm pretty sure. I haven't really used it. I never particularly do much with it, but I think it just paints on a pattern. Like, if I change this to my scan lines or whatever, I'll paint on scan lines, and yeah. I don't usually use it, but I can see how it might be useful. Um, I wouldn't bother with these. I don't know what they do. Something with history. That one's erasing that. I don't know. Random brushes, don't really need them. The eraser tool, you do need this. If you say you have a stock or something, you don't want all of it. All you gotta do is stick on a soft eraser and go to town. There you go. It erases it. It's as simple as it sounds. Um, Again, not particularly useful. These ones, I don't like. They just make choppy edges and stuff. That's no good. We don't want that. So, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I don't know what the background eraser does. I don't see how it can figure out what's background and what's foreground. See, everything's background to this thing. Just stick to the general eraser. Gradient tool. I don't really bother with it too much. As the name implies, it'll create gradients. It is good, say, if I wanted to get rid of all this stuff for a sec. Say I had something on here. Say I had a little rectangle here. Or a square, I don't know. Fill that with foreground color. See, I have a red rectangle there. If I put a vector mask on that, which it's not really going to work because I'm on the same layer. Stupid me. There we go. If I put a vector mask on that, which again I'll explain, and I want it to fade out, all I gotta do is go like that. Oh, look, it fades. Because vector masks, yeah, I'll explain them. But basically, that's all I really use it for. You can just make normal gradients with it. I have a ton of gradients downloaded. But unless you're making like simple backgrounds with them, they don't have a lot of use. Paint bucket, again, it has this thing is in Microsoft Paint. Everyone knows how to use it. It just takes a color and replaces it with another color. It's pretty basic. This is the smudge tool. I'll have to create a new layer to really show you the smudge tool. But oops. I'm really just using these. These skills can all be transferred to actual images. That's what I would be using them on, but it's a lot easier to just randomly take stuff. The smudge tool, what it's going to do, yeah, it's going to smudge. That's about as basic as it goes. It uses the same brushes as everything else. You can download brushes that are specifically made for smudging. But I don't know, they're tricky to find. Yeah, like you can adjust these in different menus to get different effects from them. But that's just one click and drag, and look at that. I have a bunch of leaves. I don't really know why I'd want a bunch of leaves, but the smudge tool can be useful if you get the right brushes for it. It kind of makes some cool stuff on occasion. Blur tool. I don't suggest it. I'd use filters for this, but yeah, it blurs. It does what it's supposed to do. Sharpen, basically just the exact opposite as one would expect. It sharpens. See? Nice sharp leaves. Crazy sharp leaves. No one would ever do that much to it. Again, I use filters for that. It's a lot simpler to do. Your dodge and burn tools. This one is the dodge tool. Dodge will brighten the things up. Like you see, those leaves are getting brighter there. And burn will do the exact opposite. It'll darken them up. This is actually really useful for lighting. It's actually immensely useful for lighting. Sponge, I don't know. I never used the sponge. I'm guessing it's sponges somehow. The pen tool. Now, I could create a full guide for the pen tool, but I'm going to give you just the basics here. You click, the pen tool creates an anchor point. You click another one, that line in between, that's the line that's going to stay. And what that line is just a straight tangent line. Now, if you drag this, when you click, if you just click and drag on that point, you get a curve. I mean, you can mess around with this. It's probably one of the most confusing tools to learn, just because it's kind of random in how it acts. But, yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, especially since, by the look of it, part 2 is done. This thing is taking longer than I thought it would. And I'm not even done the tools yet. Okay, well, that's part 2. Stay tuned for